Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and we're back with another round of smpratte consignments. You can click that link below if you want to check them out. I think it's the most I've ever done in auction blocks. We have a lot to get through in these next couple videos. We're going to start with the courtside seats. We have some English booster boxes. This is the Flashfire booster box of 2014. Just going to go ahead and show you all the angles so you can see the exact condition. The takeaway from this is, yes, there are Charizards. Yes, this was the first set where you had Mega Charizard. So it's definitely one of the popular sets in the hobby. Speaking of popular, I did a Dragon's Exalted box last month, and I had a ton of messages after it ended to see if I have another one. So here it is. I do have another one going in auction. Now, this one does have a price tag on it for those who care. But overall, just like with the Flashfire, I think this is in pretty solid shape. We also have an XY base box, so that's what people refer to this because it was the first XY booster box release. You can see the beautiful starters down there, the Blastoise with the Giga Cannon on his back, just water falling out of his pockets, water going everywhere. This one's also in really good condition. And then we have an Ancient Origins box. This is from that experimental time in the XY era where you had Shining Pokemon, Primal Pokemon. A lot was going on. Like, look no further than that Tyranitar right there. Like, what is happening to you, Tyranitar? It was a phase, and that is Ancient Origins. And last but not least, for the sealed stuff, we have a sealed Hotfoot Neo Genesis theme deck. Like the star, you see that? The stars there shining back. Really like that touch. Good job, Wizards. Also love how these theme decks had like the advanced, like this little level there, like starter, advanced, and expert. Just another little cool touch for all the Wizards Air stuff. It does have this on the back of it, so it's like the retail hanger there, the hang tag, but nonetheless, it is sealed. And now, the next block of cards we're going to go through need a little bit of an explanation because I have not had much experience with these Tommy Scratch cards. I've picked them up over the years through collections peripherally. So what these are is they only came out in Japan in 1997, so they predate the WotC era. They predate the English cards. And basically what you have is a lot of Sugimori art with a nice background, which we're going to go through all of those. In my opinion, the backgrounds here are like the main event, but what they are is they're scratch cards, and you can see like right here's the HP. You could scratch them off back in the day. Yes, for younger people, this is a thing you did with like a coin or a key or something like that. These are all unscratched. So for a lot of cross collectors, that's very important. You know, back in the day in sports cards, if you have an unmarked checklist today, that's worth a lot more. So it's the same deal with Pokemon. These are all unscratched, never used. And what I like about these is you have something like this right here. You have the budget Trophy Kangaskhan. You have that old Sugimori art, the same exact art that's on Trophy Kangaskhan, but a different background, different layout. And the hills are alive in the background of this Kangaskhan card. Also, I do have multiples of some of these in different grades. So you can click that link if you want to see like the multiple options here. But as of recording this, is just still very, very low. The bids are low on them. So, but I think it's because, again, they fly under the radar a bit because they need a little bit more explanation. Now, this Snorlax is somehow just like hanging on a branch, like floating in the middle of a canopy, like the heaviest Pokemon, just hanging out there on a limb. Then we have a Clefairy, pretty simple background. Nothing too crazy there. Just showing you the back to show they're all unused. And we have our Gyarados, our S Gyarados there. That's that original Sugimori Gyarados design. And then moving along, we have the Butterfree, another late 90s, just loving all that background. I don't know what it is about that late 90s, early 2000s CGI. It's probably just pure nostalgia. Then we have our Seeking. I forget about Seeking. Anyone else just forget about Seeking most of the time? I'm like, oh yeah, you exist. So there's our Seeking. And if you want to look again at the like subgrades and stuff, you can pause the video or, you know, click that link and check the cards out in image, and instead of me just like flipping through them quickly. Then we have our Hitmonlee here, who's like training, I guess, in Cinnabar Island. Got a lot of fire going on in the background. Then we also have a Hitmonchan, another fighting Pokemon with fire background. I wonder if it's like one of those things like fighting Pokemon want to be fire background, or fire Pokemon like rappers want to be basketball players want to be rappers. Then we have our Tauros, another crazy 90s background as well. And then next up, we have a Marowak. A lot happening there. Like I'm just focusing straight on the background of the card. Then we have our Omastar. Pretty simple there. Just a classic Sugimori Omastar. And then next up, we have a Magneton. Magneton's like weight fluctuated. Yeah, we're talking about a magnet's weight in this video. That's something you'll see. You won't be able to unsee it when you look at some of the early designs of Magneton. He's like chunkier. And then we have our Machoke. 9.5. So we do have a couple gold labels. I think there's a war turtle eventually as well. So if you want to check out the subgrades there, because I know it's important for people who dabble in the gold labels. And then we have an 8.5 Haunter, which is an absolutely stunner background. Very simple bricks. Yeah, that was a thing. That was definitely a layout. If you went to the Sears Portrait Studio, that was one of the options back then. Then we have our Rattata. Is he in the same forest as like Snorlax? Like he's on the ground and Snorlax is somewhere up there in the trees, just magically floating. And then we have a BGS 9 Pidgeot. Really gives me vibes of that like unreleased Game Boy promo and that Silver Bible. You know, those cards. There's images of them, but they aren't released. It's like one of those tragedies that you wish happened. And that is the very similar Pidgeot art. And then we have our Nidoqueen. Interesting coloration there, because Nidoqueen's definitely not that blue now. So that's like one of those early design Sugimori concepts from that, mid-90s original time frame. Speaking of, right on cue, we have the Charmander with the spike on his back. You see that right there? That is how Charmander is originally designed. Again, that first year or so with Sugimori, that's when you really saw that. So it's cool to see that on Charmander. Then we have our Bulbasaur, also bluer than he is now. It's another one of those things, but he's appropriate place at least. He has a flower on his back and the flowers, not flying in the trees like Snorlax. And then last but not least, we have a couple War Turtles. Man, this just reminds me of that Pokemon, my Game Boy guide. That's the War Turtle I looked at all the time. As a lot of people know, he was my starter. That's what I grew up on right there. This one is a 9.5. It's the other gold label I mentioned earlier. So there are the subgrades. So this finishes off these Tommy scratch cards. Again, I do have multiple grades of some of these in auction, but I just wanted to show you one of each species because we still have like a lot of cards to go through. We still have just other bricks of cards here below. We're going to keep the Beckett theme going. We're going to keep that train rolling with some Beckett graded Masaki cards. So if you are new to the channel, the hobby, we'll do a quick rundown of Masakis because they're some of the coolest Pokemon cards out there. So these are very popular Japanese promos because not only do they have this unique art, they have a very unique release. So in order to obtain these, you had to submit the previous Evolve form along with a Bill Pass card that was only available for a window there in Vending 3. You sent those into Pokemon, and they sent you this back in return. So the idea is that it mimics like the trades you had to do in the game. You had to trade to evolve into Machamp, Gengar, Golem, etc. It's the same concept in physical form, so it's a 10 out of 10 execution. Also, this one is Komiya. It is an 8.5 grade, and we do have the whole set to go through. Something a lot of people ask with the Masakis is why Omastar, and that's because you could only choose one fossil, and of course you chose right if you chose Lord Helix. This is one of the two you could get, so they chose Omastar again because it features the Lord Helix fossil. It was there the whole time in front of us. This one is a 9. Then we have an Alakazam, 8.5, really clean hollow. And then we also have a Golem, definitely one of the early hand-drawn cards I remember from back in the day. I remember seeing this as a kid. Definitely unique design, that hard black outline. And then last but not least, definitely the crowd pleaser, definitely the most valuable in the set. We have the 8.5 Masaki Gengar, one of the most popular Masaki card, and definitely one of the more popular Gengar cards as well. By the way, if you are a Gengar collector, you are just spoiled, because there's not really a bad Gengar art. Next up, we have a PSA 10 Scissors Coral card. This is pretty straightforward, just a Coral card with the highest grade. And then last but not least from this round, I don't know if you guys can hear the police driving by outside. They must be excited about the Gengar. Right when the Gengar Masaki showed up, they're like, all right, we're on our way. So we have a 10th anniversary Space Center card. This one's little bit low-key because it has this stamp here. Now, Space Center came out in the Deoxys set, but this one with the stamp is for the 10th anniversary of the Pokemon franchise. So now we have two more little boxes. Trying to do a little more organized on the back end for you guys. So we have two more boxes to go through. About, let's say, 25 more cards. We have a Hypno, very straightforward, first edition PSA 9 Holo from Fossil. This was the first year it was released. Then we have our Hitmonlee. Holo's looking pretty clean there. Love that this was the last year for that holo design. It has like a 3D effect. You really see it with the Chansey from base set. Then we have our Kaputops, PSA 10. That's a non-holo. And then our Vaporeon, PSA 9. And then next up, we have an Ancient Mew card. Now, this one is the Nintendo Air. And if you aren't familiar with this, we'll do a little explanation real quick. So this is an air at the bottom. If we zoom into that, right there, you see that in the light? See how it says Nintedo? There should be another N there to spell Nintendo, but it says Nintendo instead. So that's an air that was eventually corrected, but this was only available in that Japanese release. So just a nice little piece of history. Now, speaking of history, we have this one. This is the infamous Naked Misty, Misty's Tear. I wonder why this thing was banned. I wonder what it was that really, you know, like, made Pokemon think, you know, maybe we shouldn't print this in English for all the kids that we're trying to sell it to. So, yeah, this one never made it to the shelves in the US. It was only in Japan, and it did receive PSA 9. Definitely one of the most infamous cards. I remember my friend had that growing up. And it was like, whoa, you got the Naked Misty card. It's a big deal. Something else to mention about this is that it is the deck version, so it lacks the rarity symbol there at the bottom. That's something that happens for a lot of the deck releases in Japan. So that is just a little detail there for people who care. Then we have the Sabrina's Gaze. This one was also banned. It's apparently because she's flipping the bird. I don't see it personally. Bit of a stretch, but they went on the safe side, and this one never made it to the US either. We also have some CP6 stuff, very straightforward. PSA 10 Slowbro. Then we have our PSA 10 Burrito, sponsored by Qdoba and Chipotle. And then next up, we have our Surfing Pikachu, some of the most iconic art here. One of the early Surfing Pikachu designs. And then we have the contentious Lily Pad Mew, Rock Mew. Is it a Lily Pad? Is it a Rock? You let me know in the comments. It was a debate a while ago on E4, and I think most people have settled now that it might actually be a Rock at the end of the day. Then we have our CP6 Mewtwo. Finally upgraded him, gave him a little bit more respect. He was way too underpowered in the original release. Then we have our PSA 10 Gyarados. And then we also have a PSA 9 Scream Eevee. That's a Japanese exclusive. Really needs no introduction. The art just speaks for itself. And then we have a PSA 10 Armored Mewtwo card. So this was given out in Japan during that Mewtwo Strikes Back like re-release. So this is that infamous Armored Mewtwo. Really cool promo. Also, a little tip for that. It is really tough to grade. So I probably graded, I want to say, around 50 of those in total. And most of them came back sub 9. Because there is a little chip in there, counter, that really just leaves an indent on it. So that's a tough one to grade. Now, last but not least, we have our final stack of cards here to go through. We have an Espeon Rookie. This is the original Espeon card with a little swirl there to the bottom. Always gives me, like, when you fight Link, the Shadow Link in the Water Temple, I can't unsee it. Every time I see it, I think that. Then we have the Mega Venusaur, PSA 10 from Evolutions. And we also have the Mega Charizard, PSA 10 from Evolutions. And then last but not least, we have the best of the bunch, the Mega Blastoise with that diesel cannon taking up like half the photo. So we have all three of them going in auction. Then we have this Charizard pre-release promo, and it features that stamp. That's really the main differential there for the release. We do have some full art trainers as well. This one, Mallow, PSA 10. And we have our, I'm going to mess, Ace Rolla. This one's okay. I think I passed the test on that one. Ace Rolla. Lily's pretty easy. Some of these names, when I look at them, I'm like, we're going to stumble. Whenever I do the video, it's going to be a problem. This one right here, Lusamine? Don't know how you pronounce that. Then we have Cynthia. Cynthia is very popular. Very iconic. I heard her Garchomp is just OP in the new Diamond and Pearl remake. And then we have this guy right here. This was the pre-order release. I think it was one of the early, #1 Sun and Moon promo for Japan. I remember when that thing was new. And then we have 4 more cards, a final 4 here. We got the Kanazawa Pikachu PS10, one of the best modern arts, just absolute stunner there. And then we have 2 more of the Pikachus from earlier, except in English. So the same little Pikachu, I don't know what he's doing there. He's like sliding down with the trio, both PSA 10. And then last but not least, if you manage to stay around through the full 15 minutes, we're finishing off with a gold Reshiram. So this was that card. This is one of those early modern stomp cards that people were going crazy for with the high grade. This one received the highest grade, PSA 10. Gold card with Charizard and Reshiram from Tag Team All-Stars. I'm going to zoom in and show you the number and everything. That is the final card for part 1. This is only one of the videos. So we have another video coming out in a couple of days. And again, you can click that link below if you want to check any of these out. As usual, guys, really appreciate your time, you viewing and everything. You know the deal. Let me know how you feel. That's pretty much it. Till next time.